Good evening. Welcome to tonight's episode of the Late Night Intercourse with Chioma. Of course, your guest is Chioma Onyenucheya Uko, deceased family lawyer. Thank you very much for joining us. So whether you're joining us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or you're joining us right here on Instagram, you're welcome to tonight's conversation. Some 2 weeks ago, I think, we commenced a conversation on understanding domestic violence. And in that episode, I told you that this was in observance of the 16 days of activism against violence against women and girls. And the idea is, as a family lawyer, I encounter a lot of people, particularly women, who are victims of domestic violence. And I see that most of those people do not even have a full understanding of the provisions of the law on the subject of violence, particularly within domestic spaces. So we started in that episode, and I tried to explain to you the different forms of violence. I told you we had the emotional, the verbal, the physical, the sexual, the economical, the psychological, and all of those. And yes, we had that conversation that night. Sadly, the next week being the immediate past week, I wasn't able to come. Yes, I came on live, but it wasn't the network. It was power supply. Yes, for reasons I don't understand. Though we had an alternative power source on, unfortunately, it just didn't budge. I didn't have power to talk with you. So now we continue that conversation. And the real reason we need to have this conversation is because daily there are people who are falling victim of violence, particularly domestic abuse. And there are also possibly people who are perpetrating this violence who do not understand that they are committing a crime. Yes, that they are committing an offense. So I want to educate you on the provisions of the law, and if perchance you are a victim of any form of violence, any form of abuse, I advise you on the provisions or the sources where you can get help, where you can get legal help. So for starters tonight, because for the past 2 weeks, we've been having a law week for the International Federation of Women Lawyers. Many of you who follow me, who know me, know that I'm an ardent FIDA member. I'm a proud FIDAN. And I also happen to be the chair of the FIDA Abuja Law Week committee. So because of that, I have been very busy the past 2 weeks. And the law week ended 2 days ago, and the AGM happened today, and eventually I get to be free. So I know that my voice is not in its best element, so I didn't prepare slides for today's meeting, but because I have a date with you every Thursday at 10 p.m., and because I know that you'll be looking forward for us to have an intercourse, I had to come on here so that we continue this conversation, So what I'd like for us to do today is, when violence happens, when abuse happens in the home, what remedy, what protection does a victim have? You may not have the answer, but if there's anything that comes to mind to you, can I see you drop it in the comment section? What do you think anybody who is confronted with violence in the home, who is confronted with any kind of abuse in a domestic relationship, abuse from a father, a mother, a spouse, a sibling, a friend, a lover, a child, what do you think a person who is confronted with violence, with abuse in the home or in a domestic relationship, what do you think that person should do or can do? I would like to see your response in the comment section. You never can tell how the prizes for tonight will be won. And I will also be calling on the people who won prizes 2 Thursdays ago. Unfortunately, for the first time, I have not been able to, credit them with the value of those prizes they won. And it, of course, it's not because I don't want to, and it's not because there's no funds to. It's simply because it has been an overwhelming 2 weeks for me. I've been very busy. I am sorry about that. Maybe we'll maybe doing that live tonight. If I also find those people making comments here and identifying themselves and obliging me their account details, I will make the transfers live tonight. So you don't know how the prize for tonight will be won. Can I hear your comments? Can I hear your opinion? Can I hear your comment? I mean, your suggestion. When I say here, whether you're calling or you're typing it, can I hear or read what your thoughts are as to what one should do if that person is confronted with abuse, with violence in the home or in a domestic relationship? While I'm waiting to see what your comments are, let me check if anybody has responded to that. Let me check if anybody has responded to that. Okay, Leo Smart says, good evening, Ma. Welcome, Ma. Your voice is showing that you have been under a lot of stress lately, but be strong, Ma. I don't know what happened, but I was trying to reach out to you on WhatsApp concerning consolation on the first edition of Violence Against Women talk show 2 weeks ago, but you're not responding on WhatsApp. In any case, I celebrate you, Ma. Oh, I'm so sorry, Leo Smart. Yes, I had just addressed that. I said unfortunately because I've been busy. I've been really, really busy. I was unable to deal with that. But if you drop your account details here, I will, redeem that right away. So, and oh, he goes ahead to say, welcome, Ma. We are happy to see you again. Thank you so much, Leo Smart. I'm also happy to be back on live with you. So I'm checking to see if anybody has responded to my question. My question was, where a person is confronted with abuse in the home, domestic violence, what do you think that person should do? And I'm watching to read your comments. Okay, on Instagram, your favorite midwife says, consult a professional, a lawyer or a counselor. Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, okay. I see your comment. Your comment is noted. Yes, yes, your comment is noted. Your fave midwife, thank you for your comment. I'm checking to see if there are other comments. I'm checking to see if there are other responses. Okay, Nele say, okay, Nele is sending love. Oh, thank you. I'm sending love right back. Obuna Wachuku Mike says, greetings, Nene. Oh, thank you. Greetings, Yanda. How are you? Oh, my dearest sister, Ubu Ajanna Jingozi says, kudos to you, lady. GCK. Women, violence is also on the high rise in America. Oh, yes. It's not a scourge that is peculiar to any society. I know it's not peculiar to Nigeria. I know it's happening all over the world. But hey, wherever it happens, violence is unpardonable, it's inexcusable, it's unacceptable, it's illegal, it's criminal, and nobody deserves to be subjected to violence, and nobody deserves to live the life, being dehumanized, being dehumanized with violence. So yeah, yes, I agree with you. I know it's all over. Norma Okezue says an abused person should talk to someone. Yes, yes. Norma is echoing the thoughts of Norma, of course, sends her comments from on Facebook, and she's echoing the thoughts of your faith midwife. Both of them are saying that every victim of violence should talk to someone, and I totally agree with the both of you. One of the things that give impetus to violence, one of the things that embolden bullies, one of the things that, make perpetrators tough and continue in the impunity of their offense is your silence. When you keep quiet, when you keep shut, they continue to, inflict violence in the cover of secrecy. But when you speak up, chances are they may get embarrassed because they know what they're doing is wrong. They don't want another person to know. They don't want your friends to hear about it. They don't want the society, the people who hold them in esteem, to begin to think less of them. So they would rather you keep quiet and say nothing. Please don't indulge them. Talk to someone. Break the culture of silence. Better still, talk to a professional. Talk to someone who will give you a dispassionate and a professional advice. You may talk to a family lawyer. You may talk to a counselor. Granted, sometimes you may find family and friends. You may find, some certain persons who, because of their positions, have gained some experience on some of these subjects. Some people talk to their pastors and things like that. I'm not saying any of those is wrong, but I'm saying that it is best that you speak to a professional. A professional will advise you with the benefit of the knowledge of the workings of the law. What does the law say? What are the options available to you? How do you engage those options? How do you activate them? How do you, take advantage of them? So it's important that you talk to someone. Don't die in silence. Most of the casualties we've seen, most of the people who we've heard fall casualty of domestic abuse were people mostly who kept silent or who didn't talk to the right people. So I agree with both Norma Okezue on Facebook and your faith midwife on Instagram that you need to talk to someone, consult a professional. Yes, Nele echoes the same thing. She says by seeking legal consultation. Oh, okay. Daniel says flee from any kind of violence. So I imagine that what Daniel is trying to say is that when you encounter violence in the home or within your domestic relationships, that the best thing for you to do is to flee. Yes, I agree. But I also realize that sometimes some people are unable to flee. They may not have alternative accommodations of where to go to. I understand that. That is where consulting a professional also comes in. Because, yes, the first thing to do is to preserve yourself, to remove yourself from that toxic or dangerous place. So yes, you should flee. But even in fleeing, you can flee in a manner that still accords you your deserved humanity, your deserved dignity. Fleeing doesn't mean you have to flee and go to the streets. Fleeing doesn't mean that you flee into a life that is less comfortable or less secure than what you had. You can flee and still be safe. You can flee and maintain your dignity. You can flee and remain in comfort. That is one of the reasons why you need to consult a family lawyer, particularly if you encounter domestic abuse. So I agree that you should flee, but when you flee, you can flee from a place of knowledge, from a place of guided decisions. And Ngozi goes ahead to say violence in the home is a serious issue. Safety is number one, absolutely. Because ideally, the home should be one of the, it should be your place of safety, your place of succor, your place of protection, your place of shelter. When that place becomes a place of terror, of threat, of violence, of humiliation, of dehumanization, then it's not worth being home anymore. It means it's no longer safe for you. And of course, the first rule of life is self-preservation. So I agree. Okay, Daniel goes ahead to say you should flee, run, report, or share. And I totally agree. Ngozi says that the victim should seek help and speak up. It should be zero tolerance. Thank you very much. And Torrentikaza Isaac says, well done, Mama. God bless you richly. We're learning always. He resumed school and unfortunately he doesn't have good network at the moment. Oh, so sorry, dearie, but I'm happy that you're able to join us. I hope that you are following up and following on with the conversation. Thank you so much. And then Ngozi proceed. Okay. Obonewa Chukwumike says it doesn't matter who, flee from the violence. Absolutely. And then Ngozi proceeds to say people should always get advice from abuse victims who are helpless themselves. If you're in Nigeria, speak to my dear friend Chioma Onye. Oh. Okay. So Ngozi is actually advising you to consult a lawyer. Her friend Chioma is a lawyer, of course. Yours truly, disaster family lawyer. So she's simply saying, if you're in Nigeria or wherever you find yourself, and there is violence, please consult a lawyer in your best interest. Let's check to see if we have any responses to that on YouTube. Let me check and see. Let me check and see if there's any response on YouTube. Let me check and see. If there's any response on YouTube. I'm checking to see. Sorry, can you help me check? I want to check to see if there's any response on YouTube. Okay, so yes, the response is here. Okay. Oh, Auntie Chonya, God bless you. Thank you very much for joining, Ma. Thank you so much. She says, for wives under abusive relationships, please run for your life. Yes, and I agree. So she is reiterating the advice that has been given by other commenters, by other contributors. And I would only like to add to say that this is not restricted to women. There are men who are also in abusive relationships, in abusive marriages. Whoever you be, male or female, if you find yourself in a situation of violence, in a situation of abuse, particularly when it begins to pose a risk to your life, when it begins to pose a risk to the dignity of your person, when it begins to pose a risk to your sanity, flee. Someone here says, the first thing I think such a person should do is seek for safety first. Try to stay safe by moving away or seek refuge elsewhere. Secondly, talk to a lawyer. Look for a family lawyer, I think. Okay, and Auntie Chonya asked the question. Oh, well, she's saying that it may help to highlight different types of violence. Lots of people don't even know they have abusive partner. I totally agree with you, Auntie. A lot of people do not know that they are in abusive relationships. Yes, they see that they are not happy. They find that they are drained. They find that they kind of lose self-esteem. They lose joy. They lose, the zest for life. But they don't know why that's happening to them. They don't know how to explain to a third party that they are in a dark place because the person may not understand that this is actually violence. Well, like we had discussed in that first episode of this conversation on domestic violence, you are in a violent relationship, in an abusive relationship, if your partner, if your spouse, if that person you are in that relationship with, whether your parent, your child, your sibling, whoever that person is, if in that relationship that person humiliates you, threatens you, inflicts any form of physical, emotional, or psychological and other forms of abuse, does not allow you free expression of your potentials, tries to control you unduly wield control, and deprive you of the right of choice, of the right of taking decisions, of the freedom of movement, of interaction, and all those kind of things, makes you second guess yourself, brings you to a place where you are always, you're always walking on eggshells. You're in trepidation always. You're wondering, I don't know what I will say now, and this person will be angry. I don't want to offend him. Can I talk? Can I breathe? Once you hear the person's car hoot and you're like, oh my God, he's coming back, your heart jumps, your heart skips a beat. If any of this kind of things or anything similar is happening to you, and it happens to you because of the person you're in a relationship with, it doesn't matter if that person is your son or your daughter. It doesn't matter if that person is your husband or your wife, if that person is your father or your mother, if that person is your brother or your sister, if that person is your boyfriend or your girlfriend, you are in an abusive relationship. So, and like I said, it can be physical, it can be emotional, it can be psychological, it can be economical, yes, it can be verbal, by the hurtful, degrading words they hurl at you. It can be in any of the, it can be sexual, when that person wants to take advantage of your body without your consent, when that person does not respect, your right to the agency of yourself, of your body, when that person feels that you are, an object for his or her gratification or pleasure. It can be any of this. If it manifests in any of those forms, it is domestic abuse. And the law forbids it, and the law provides for you to have, protection. And in the law, there is what we call a protection order. What it means is that even for those people who are in a relationship, maybe a marriage, and you don't have the means to leave that marriage, and you don't want to leave because your abuser is your benefactor, your abuser is the one who provides for you, your abuser is your provider, that is no reason to tolerate or condone or excuse abuse. The law says that you can get protection. The law says that you can approach the court, and the court will grant you a protection order. And with a protection order, you will remain in that house. That person will continue to provide for you, and that person will no longer have the right nor the power to continue to abuse you. Yes, if that person is presently paying school fees for you, the person will continue to pay your school fees. If that person is providing for your upkeep, the person will continue to provide for your upkeep. So don't allow fear of sustenance, fear of maintenance to be the reason why you remain in an abusive relationship. Don't even be afraid of where will I go to. If you need to remain in that shared household, under the law, you can get the backing of the law. You can get an order of court that will, authorize you to remaining in that home, but safe from further abuse. And where you don't want, where that person, you don't want that person remaining in that home with you, depending on the circumstances of the case, the court can also ensure that you're the one who remains in that home, free from further abuse, and your abuser is out of that house, by bringing a protection order application before the court. And of course, if you have such problems, if you're in the FCT, if you're in Abuja, you can go to NAPTIP. If you go to NAPTIP, they are the agency of government that is mandated with the implementation of the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act. You can go to the Nigerian police. It is true that sometimes some officers of the Nigeria police force are not as trained or do not quite understand and appreciate the nuances around the issues of violence. Yes, but there are some of them who are quite professional. Some of them understand, which is why it may also help that you already speak with a lawyer, because if you speak with a lawyer and that lawyer is guiding you through, the process, that lawyer is able to watch the responses you get to ensure that you get the right response from the, law enforcement agencies. Then, of course, you can also go to the Human Rights Commission. You know that we have the Human Rights Commission all over. They are all over. They are not only in the FCT. Human Rights Commission have offices all over Nigeria. So you can go to any office of the National Human Rights Commission in any states of your residence. And if you go there to make a complaint, one of the beautiful things about complaining to National Human Rights Commission is that in the event where you think that going to court may be may take a little while in getting you the justice or the protection you desire, Human Rights Commission has powers under the law to make quasi-judicial pronouncements. They can give orders that has as much effect as an order of court. Do you understand? Especially in the interim, to protect you pending when you explore fuller options before the court. But that is not to say that obtaining a protection order is still, a protracted process, particularly in the FCT. I may not be able to speak for what obtains in all the states of the Federation. Sadly, some states have not passed the VAP law, so for those states, that may not apply. For those who have passed it, I don't quite know what happens across all the states of the Federation. But in the FCT, Abuja, where I am resident and where I practice more, if you go to court, you can bring an interim application, and when you bring that interim application, the court can grant you hearing and grant you an order even as short as 5 days. Do you understand? In the interim, to at least preserve your safety until the matter is now heard in full. It is, a more recent development, though the act was passed in 2015. That development is, happened this year when the chief judge of the FCT signed on the practice direction on obtaining protection order from the courts. So what it means is that whether you go to NAPTIP or you go to the police or you go to the National Human Rights Commission or you go to, there are a few CSOs, a few NGOs that major on subjects around eradicating violence, protecting victims of violence. They can also help, guide you through the process. But if you ask me, I would always say, talk to a lawyer first. A lawyer will look at your specific circumstances, because sometimes when you give an advice, though it may apply generally, it may not fit your peculiar situation. It is a lawyer who tells you this is your best option and guides you through pursuing that option. So these are some of the places you can go to when you are a victim of domestic violence. Please do not tolerate abuse. Do not excuse it. Do not justify it. In fact, under the VAP Act, both the direct perpetrator who inflicted the abuse and then those who are complicit by aiding it or abating it, by supporting or covering, abusers, they are all guilty. And the law prescribes different punishments for each of those people depending on the nature of abuse. I don't know if you have any questions today. Like I told you, today was, I didn't script anything. I didn't create any slides. It's been a very hectic two weeks in the past 2 weeks for me, like I said. But because we have a relationship here, because I know you will want to keep a date with me for this intercourse, I was not going to disappoint you. That's why I'm here, and that's why I will always be here every Thursday at 10 p.m. for us to have this intercourse where I teach you on subjects within family law, and then listen to your questions, respond to those I can, and then also get your perspectives on some of these conversations. So I don't know if there is any further question or comment. I see I'm trying to see if there are any questions I may have omitted. Of course, you all know that if you need to send me a message, you can send a WhatsApp message to 090 80000633. And if you want to make a call, when I'm live on the late night intercourse, you may call that number. But once the intercourse is over, that number is not available for calls. You can only send me WhatsApp messages to that number. And of course, you can also send me an email, latenightintercourse@gmail.com. Yes. And you can send me a message on Messenger. You can also just, post your comments or questions or concerns in the comment section. And I had said that for all those who won prizes at the last 2 episodes who have not received their Instagram is having connection issues. My apologies to those signing me who are watching us live on Instagram. I'm so sorry. So I was saying that if you are one of those who won prizes 2 Thursdays ago, feel free to drop your account details so that I credit you to the value of your prizes. Please feel free to do that. Feel free to do that. I'm checking to see if there are any questions. So Torrentikaza Isaac said, marriage is meant for the living. You must first ensure you are safe and alive before marriage can thrive. Yes, marriage is a worthy union, and as much as is possible, it should be for life. But when it becomes a threat to your life, when it becomes a threat to your well-being, when it becomes a threat to your dignity, to your sanity, common sense dictates that self-preservation prevails. Until you are alive, you cannot be married. Daniel is talking about cyberbullying here. Yeah, that's a form of abuse. And one of the forms of abuse that I see, online abuse that I see, or let me say digital violence that I see people perpetrate, is when you find people sharing the nudes of their intimate partners to spite them, to punish them, to hurt them, to humiliate them. It is a crime. Nobody has the right to share, in fact, to record or share anybody's nude. Nobody has that right. It is a criminal offense, and it is punishable under our laws. So if you are a victim of any such thing, don't be ashamed. And please, I need to make the point that it is wrong for a victim to be the one who is ashamed. When the abuser, who is the one who is committing a crime, who is a criminal, is not ashamed. No, let's not turn the tables. The person who deserves every shame, every reproach, every Every castigation is the abuser, not the victim. Every victim needs our love, our support, our understanding. We need to help a victim come, out of the pain, the hurt of whatever they may have suffered. So please, let us not stigmatize victims. Let us not, further victimize victims. When we do that, we are also abusers. The person who should be called out, who should be named and shamed, who should be castigated, condemned, who should even be, penalized by the law is the abuser, the one who has committed the offense. So, Daniel mentions a few of the forms of, some of the violence that he knows. He talks about economic abuse, stalking, child neglect, elder abuse, child abuse, gender violence, all of those, indecent assault, all of those, coercion, all of those, forced economic dependence, all of those, eviction from the home, all of those, they are violence. When you restrict your loved one who lives with you from interacting with the outside world, it is abuse. When you don't allow him or her the choice of determining what they do with their earnings or to even earn a living, it is an abuse. So please, I beg us all, first of all, domestic violence and any form of violence is a criminal act. It is an offense under our laws. You should avoid it by all means. And we are all human. Every human being is entitled to the dignity of his or her human person. Anything that subjugates, that humiliates, that threatens, that violates, that abuses in any form is an affront on that right to personal dignity. The law forbids it. So please, let's shun violence. And I call on all of you, in line with the theme for this year's 16 Days of Activism Against Violence, that we all unite to prevent, we all unite and invest to prevent violence against persons, particularly women and girls. And I say this because they are usually more the victims. That is not to say that men are not victims of violence. But because of the balance of power in relationships, you find more women who are vulnerable, more children, especially girl children, who are vulnerable. And please, let's all unite, come together to invest in preventing the occurrence of violence. This is my investment, talking to you about it, enlightening you, sensitizing you on the subject is part of my investment. And of course, rising to fight with victims of violence against their abusers. That's my investment. Make yours. Educate those within your sphere. Allow yourself enjoy a mindset shift, a reorientation, so that you realize that might is not right. It is not by physical might or by the might of your status. When you treat people better, they respect you better. You don't need violence. So this is a time when you ask me your questions, because if you don't, I'll ask you mine. This is when you ask me your questions. Thank you very much for those love emojis, for the reactions. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for all the love you learn. Thank you, because as you share, you are also investing in educating, a larger number of people. To see if there are comments I have missed. Okay. If there is any question, that I need to take. Is there any question? I can't see a question. I can't see any further question. Okay. So if you don't have any question, Yes, initially I'd asked you what you think a victim of abuse in the home should do. And some of you reacted and gave their responses. I commend all of those who did. Thank you very much for responding. My question now, which will be the question that throws up our winners for tonight's data subscription prizes, is can you just mention maybe 3 places or 3 sources or 3 offices where you think a victim of violence can get help? Where you think they can get help? I'm checking the comment sections to see your response. And I agree with Ngozi, my sister Ngozi Naji, Ubajan Naji. She says domestic violence has accounted for lots of suicide cases all over the world, including Nigeria. That's very true. Until you lose a loved one or someone you know, you may not realize the enormity of the crime of domestic violence. Sometimes, yes, it's an accident in the sense that the perpetrator does not realize that that shove may just be all it takes for the victim's head to be flung against the wall and the person slumps. But the mere fact that you deliberately set out to inflict violence makes you culpable, even if you did not intend the death that resulted from it. Shun violence. Shun violence. Shun violence. Many have ruined their lives because they did not control their anger, because they acted rashly, violently, in a fit of rage. Some of them have secured permanent places for themselves in the correctional services, in the correctional centers, the prisons. Some people have lost their freedom because they were violent. Some people have lost huge money in paying fines, in treating people, for the maybe hurt or injuries inflicted on them. Some people have lost their job. Some people have been, gone through harrowing prosecutions. All of it is avoidable. Oh, thank you so much, Auntie C. Thank you for the compliment. Thank you for the encouragement. Thank you so much. Anthony Ekbete sends in the first response, and he says the 3 agencies where one may go to if one is suffering domestic violence is NAPTIP, the Nigerian Police Force, and National Human Rights Commission. Congratulations, Anthony Ekbete. You are our first prize winner. Congratulations, Anthony. Your response came in first in time. Yes, and your favorite midwife here on Instagram says domestic violence is also linked with a lot of mental illness cases. Absolutely. I agree with you, sister. I agree with you. She says like depression and psychosis, especially in women. Absolutely. That's correct. That's correct. So it's really dangerous. It's really, really dangerous. The other response we got is from Torrentikaza Isaac. He says, Nigerian Police Force, National Human Rights Commission, and CSOs. Yes, I agree with you. Particularly CSOs whose thematic focus, whose core areas of interest are around protecting victims of violence. And Nena Okezue mentions the law enforcement office should be our first point of call in the case of violence. Yes, except that there are quite a number of law enforcement offices, and you need to be, clear on which you're going to, which is most suitable, which is most appropriate for whatever the circumstance you're going through. And Ubonne Wachuku Mike says the first thing is to flee to another safe home, report to the legal authority, especially family lawyer, and take good care of yourself. I totally agree. And then Daniel mentions CYPF, Nigerian Police Force, and the family lawyer as three of the places he thinks a victim of violence should seek help from. And I totally agree with him. From the responses sent in, the persons who have responded to my question directly by giving me three offices where victims of violence may seek help and get the appropriate help are Anthony Ekpete, of course, the first prize winner, Torrenti Kaza Isaac, Norma Okezue. Okay, Norma gave me only one. I asked for three, so Norma is not one of the winners. And Daniel Chimazuru. Those are the three people who have won my prizes tonight. Anthony Ekpete, Torrenti Kaza Isaac, and Daniel Chimazuru. Can I please see what's happening on YouTube? Just per chance, there's someone who has correctly answered my question, so I do not skip that person. Vibes Plus says, great job, Ma. Thank you very much, Vibes Plus. Thank you. Okay. Leo Smart also got the answer correctly. He says, places where a victim can get help, Human Rights Office, the court, and the police. I totally agree with you, Leo Smart. So Leo Smart is now one of the four people, except that he's arguing that he's the first. And I do not think so. I do not think he's the first. He said he sent his on Facebook first. Maybe I should check the time frame. Yes, in doing that, the first person who responded was actually Anthony Ekpete. My apologies, Leo Smart. My apologies, but you're a winner regardless. Whether you are the first prize winner or a consolation prize winner, the important thing is that you're a winner. First, you won the acquisition of more knowledge, I imagine, and then you also won, a token data subscription. So you are also a winner. Oh, okay. So thank you very much, everyone who logged on and joined me in tonight's intercourse. I always derive a lot of pleasure having this intercourse with you. It's an opportunity for me to enlighten you, and then sometimes I learn, even from your reactions, from your questions, and your comments. Let's keep this going. Let's do this again, same time next week, every Thursday at 10 p.m. And as always, the pleasure has been mine, Chioma Onyenucheya Uko, also known as the Zest Family Lawyer. Do enjoy a restful night and stay away from all forms of abuse. And please, do not be an abuser yourself. Good night. Using it. What else is Daniel is using Airtel. Yeah, I'm using the one for my